XSI offers different controls to better define how the actual deformation is going to be computed in your scene. Let's say, for example, you do have a scene where there's an actual shape modification or shape changes throughout one frame, and you want to motion blur this. For example, you may want to have a soft body or a cloth that will change shape over a given time, let's say one frame. Or you may have a facial animation and you want the actual expression. Let's say you have a very comic style expression that changes very rapidly over one frame and you want to motion blur that. That's really important to enable the motion blur deformation. Instead of computing a motion transform per object, it will compute a motion vector per vertex. So as you can see, this involves a little bit more memory usage on the rendering side because it has to compute 3 actual direction for every vertices, the X, Y, Z, into the world space or object space. So if you do have, let's say, a very heavy mesh that contains a lot of triangles, then keep in mind that these deformation motion blur will be more costly to render and will also require more memory. There's another control about motion transform. You can actually evaluate the actual transform differently. So there's 2 options that is available. You can actually evaluate the motion blur transform or the SRT from T and T+1, for example, which is beginning shutter and close shutter. And whenever you say 50%, it's going to be 50% of this interpolation between these 2 frames. So that is pretty useless settings, I would say. That was one of the first one implemented. Soon after, in XSI 2.0, we came up with a shutter speed base, where instead of evaluating at the beginning to the end, instead what we do is we evaluate from beginning towards shutter time, which allows to create a better motion blur, which was allowing to have propellers properly rendered. But now with the motion blur step, this is now very easy to achieve. So using shutter speed, base, and step will allow you to create a very good propeller result with motion blur.